Tim, from your real scientist and researcher and innovator, what are, from your perspective, some of the elements of innovation?
Well, my background is in instrumentation. I spent 30 years making measurements, high pressure, high stress, acceleration, microphonics, ultrasonics, just about any measurement out there. People challenge me all the time on how to make these measurements. People tell me that sometimes these measurements are nearly impossible. 30 years ago, when I was making these measurements, I spent a huge amount of time focusing on the hardware, getting the hardware set right, getting the software to work correctly, and it was really quite an involved process. And quite honestly, during that process, my mind, my focus gets shifted from my main goal to getting the hardware going, all right? So that really is distracting. And so when I'm focusing myself getting the hardware going, sometimes it's hard to see the overall picture of your research objective. Well, obviously I'm a very unique user of LabVIEW equipment. I now have instruments that are placed in the path of tornadoes. What these instruments measure is wind speed, barometric pressure, temperature, humidity. What we're trying to understand is how powerful these tornadoes can be as they pass over a structure like a house. How powerful are the winds? These are measurements that have never been done before. And when I first came up with this idea, I had colleagues tell me, he says, Tim, you're crazy. You will not get that instrument inside that tornado, and there's no instrument around that will survive the onslaught of 250 mile per hour winds. Well, if I listened to my colleagues and some of my peers, I wouldn't be doing the hardware. But I felt like this could be done. And now that, along with National Instruments, we have collected some record-breaking data. And in one case, a few years ago, we collected a 100 millibar pressure drop inside of a tornado. That's basically 1/10 of an atmosphere. We've actually proven that that the pressure could be very, very low inside a tornado. Why are we concerned about the pressure in tornadoes? It's because that drives how powerful the winds are. We can measure the pressure dropping inside the tornado. We can help describe how powerful the winds are. Describe how powerful the winds are. Then we can hand some of this information off to building engineers, and perhaps they can build better structures and ultimately save lives. So with National Instruments teamed with me this past year, I've been able to think forward and think way up here instead of at the ground level in terms of measurement. As an example, for the first time, I'm doing acoustics measurements using 4 microphones, using a compact DAC, 4 channels at 100 kilosamples per second, simultaneous sample. That means that I am taking 4 data points at 100 kilosamples per second, streamlined to the drive in real time. It'll run for hours. In fact, it did last season. And so for the first time ever, I'm able to capture some acoustics of tornadoes. And I've got a long-term belief that there may be some acoustic components inside of tornadoes that we can use for perhaps on future detection. And so this has become one of my main goals. And without National Instruments and without LabVIEW, I wouldn't have been able to do this. I would have had to staple together all this crazy equipment and turn it on, and turn it on and hope and pray that it all booted up and worked fine. This equipment's seamless. It was just a matter of just a few clicks to get things in place, and when I turn it on, I know it's running. And of course, having an instrumentation that runs the first time when you place it in the path of tornadoes, it's important. It's critical.